The big bad Nick Fuentes, one of the most controversial political type figures of the younger generation and becoming more mainstream as we know it. Mr. Nick Fuentes. Funny enough, my most viewed video that I have here on YouTube is my reaction video I did almost a year ago, actually, in regards to what he said about marijuana, and I made a little reaction off it. It's very short, it's like 6 minutes long. If you want to watch it, I'll link it below. But Nick Fuentes, especially ever since the Charlie Kirk assassination, as I've said multiple times, is being pushed more. He's basically the guy that's going to be the new informer for the average intellect out here. The guy who, for alternate media, this is where people are going to go to or gravitate to, and just probably stumble across because he's getting pushed now. And as I've been talking about, this whole year in 2025, I've made a ton of videos on these micro influencers like Nick Fuentes, who is getting much bigger now, Charlie Kirk even, but way before he got assassinated, right? Um, Candace Owens, who's another one who she's going off the rails with the whole Charlie Kirk incident. I don't really even know what she's talking about. Like, I don't really pay attention much to these micro influencers. Like, I do follow them on social media. I'll occasionally watch, some of their shows. But for the most part, I don't really keep up with what they say because I know that these guys, whether they know it or not, whether they're useful idiots or they actually are feds, because now the term Fed has been thrown around so many times that you can just accuse anyone of being a Fed at this point. If you disagree with someone, oh, they're a Fed, you know. And here's the thing about Fuentes is there's a lot of stuff he says that I agree with. Same with Candace Owens. Same with even Charlie Kirk. And then you got Jake Shields, Myron Gaines, Ian Carroll, all these people, right? And they serve a purpose of the alternate media. And of course, Alex Jones, how can I forget him? These people are the alternate media, right? They've become that because probably during COVID, more so, I'd say people got suspicious, more so who probably lean on the red team politically. People got suspicious about it. They started doing research, and the powers that be and the algorithms that they control on social media, on TV, whatever it might be, they control what gets pushed out, the flow of information. They push these guys out, and maybe they are fed, maybe they aren't. That's irrelevant at this point. This is what they're pushing, and these are rubbing off on people. Like there's people I'm coming across in my life that know Nick Fuentes, ranging from guys younger than me to guys older than me. So he's becoming known. Even President Trump, right, was talking about him at one point. He's having interviews with Tucker Carlson and all these and Jake Shields and Pierce Morgan and all of these different uh, alt media, but still kind of mainstreaming and garner a ton of views people. Someone like me, I've never been big. There's plenty of truthers out there who talk about stuff that the same stuff I do, and even in better ways. They might make all these fancy documentaries and whatnot. But people like us, we don't get pushed out, and there's a reason for that. It's not on purpose. It's not because the nature of our content even is bad, or what we're saying is a threat, or it's hateful, anything like that. It's just informing people about what's really taking place. And obviously, the powers that be don't want their hand exposed too much, at least. So they're not going to give. They're not going to let stuff that can actually change the consciousness and alter the perception of reality of the people. They're not going to let it get pushed out. Now again, with Nick Fuentes, I just finished watching not his interview with Morgan, but I guess the interview. I mean, not the interview, the show he did after that. And it's he's a very entertaining guy. I could see why. I mean, he's very entertaining. He's funny. He's charismatic. He's around my age. He's in his late 20s like me, and he's a guy that he's funny. He's kind of giving a perception of reality that's real. It's sort of in a harsh, aggressive way that a lot of young men are kind of yearning for because a lot of young men have been completely misled, not just through their family, but of course through the school system, through uh, uh, pop culture, through social media, then everything. The stuff we've seen in movies, TV shows. It all shapes our reality. And a lot of the whole red pill dating stuff really exploded these past 5, 6 years. It's really got taken to what it was meant for, and it got turned into something completely different, which is part of a gender war, which Nick Fuentes definitely contributes to. And that's the thing about Nick Fuentes is he contributes to disliking or having a distaste or even hate towards certain groups, whether it be towards women, right? Because the stuff he says, I mean, he talks about how he's very boring. He doesn't want to take women out on dates, this and that. And if that's what if this is really him talking, if that's what he wants to do, go right ahead. He can obviously do whatever he wants. Because I know this guy's a virgin, right? A lot of people make fun of him for that. Um, but he just has this very hyper masculine take, right, on women, whether it's real or not. I think it's to purposely just start, a gender war and for guys to look at women a certain way. Because let's be real, we all know what feminism, what's that. We see the repercussions of it. We see what it's done to women and even to men as well. And the men have woken up because a lot of men have grown up to realize that they're not having any success with women. So they seek out information maybe on the internet, whatnot, and they come across guys that are similar to Nick Fuentes or that are very hyper masculine. The whole red pill stuff, which happened to me about 6 years ago in 2019. That was the first time I ever came across red pill, and it was very different back then to how it is now. It wasn't too known back then, but like I said, through the podcast, like the Myron Gaines type podcast, and these micro influencers preaching similar stuff to it, it's very interesting how it's kind of shaped a lot of young men's beliefs and their perspectives on women and how they go about life and view stuff. So again, a lot of the stuff there's truth in these things, right? There's some truth in red pill and how you have to be as a man, because we're not taught to be men in this society. Our dads and our not all of our dads, but our families did not teach us how to be strong leaders. They didn't teach us that. They didn't teach us how to be strong men. The women weren't taught how to really be a strong woman, and it's not how strong woman how it's been portrayed through all these years. I don't need no man, this and that, because now it's become that way for men. I don't need a woman, and Fuentes preaches stuff like that. And whether he's joking or not, because a lot of his clips will go viral on X, for example, and he's even popping up on Instagram now and other platforms more. But he'll have a clip, maybe he's joking, maybe he's not, but it's him saying something racist or stuff about the JQs, right? Because that's really what got him big, is when he started talking about the JQs and all that. And I made plenty of videos talking about how the whole JQ stuff is misleading because it's making you look at one particular group. And again, not that there's not truth in it, right? That there's truth in Zionism and all that, but it's being mixed with, it's all of them. Just look at them, don't look at anything else. And if you question it, maybe this person's a JQ being paid off, right? Because a lot of content creators that are big, and I'm not saying that it's not true, but they'll get accused of being paid by Israel, and it could be true, right? But the bigger picture here is this: is like people are so caught up in the wrong things. Like they're caught up on, is this person real? Is this person not? If you know the truth, you'll be able to listen to someone like Fuentes or people similar, and you'll be able to discern what they're saying is genuine, if it's not, if it's real, if it's not. Because I think Fuentes is I don't want to say he's a Fed, but he's being pushed out there, right? And maybe he does have ties to the CIA or whatever. Maybe he does have ties to even Israel, the country that he claims that is the cause of almost all the harm in the world. Maybe he is, right? We'll never truly know, because none of us really know this guy, right? You can listen to him all you want, but you're not living with this guy, or you're not friends with him. You don't see how he moves. You don't see what he does on a daily basis, right? And whether he's being paid to push narratives or not, it's working, because he's becoming mainstream now, right? He's the guy that's up and coming behind Mr. Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk, before he died, I didn't even know he was only 32. I thought he was like in his 40s, but turned out he was only in his early 30s. And now Nick Fuentes is coming up. And he's the guy, right, that if a lot of young men are care at all about politics, let's say, or they are seeking out some sort of alt media that's not mainstream, you come across someone like this. And the problem is because young men have become interested because they have so much time on their hands, right? They're not like the modern woman who they have all these friends. They have a lot of time-consuming stuff that they do because they have more of a social life, right? Easier for them to get dates, right? And a lot of young men are just out here alone, on a Friday, Saturday night, and they'll do deep dives maybe on the internet because they're curious. It all comes down to because the young men have been misled, and what's happening is they don't know that they've been misled, but they're starting to ask questions and they're starting to seek out information. And we live in this digital world, the information age, where you can find anything online. Of course, there's a ton of misinformation online, but in the time period we find ourselves in, we can still find truth. A lot of people have their own websites so that they can just speak completely free. Because all these platforms, even though as of now they haven't been censoring a whole ton lately, you are still limited on what you can talk about. So unless people have their own websites, truthers have their own website or whoever it is, that's really the way right now. But that can come to an end very soon with the monopolization of the internet, let's say, which is part of the 2030 agenda, I believe, where they're going to try to basically take over the internet and have authorization on what websites are on there. Maybe in the future we'll only be allowed to use a few websites, and those will be the only ones that even exist, right? And not to get too far off topic, I know I'm trying to talk about Nick Fuentes here and the micro influencers, but I'm trying to paint a bigger picture for you guys to see. And think about it though, it's kind of like that now, because sure, you have private websites, right? But you have to market it, and you have to market it through these mainstream platforms that people use, like YouTube, like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, Snapchat, even all these platforms that people use. Um, Even though they might be controlled and CIA platforms to collect data on us, this and that, and study our behavior, even if it is that, right? It doesn't matter because they have all our information. A lot of people don't even use certain apps because they don't want their information out there, which I understand. But at this point in the digital world, I mean, they know who we all are. So anyway, you have to market it and you have to use these platforms, and that's the hard part because now these algorithms that you use are controlled. They control what gets pushed out, what doesn't, what goes viral, what doesn't go viral. For the most part, they want just nonsense going viral or just complete. If it is political and stuff that is pertaining to stuff going on in the world and news, they want some truth but mixed with lies. Or you can say some truth but you can't say certain things, right? And that's how it is. That's how they kind of monopolize and put in front of people these certain influencers, right? Or what gets pushed out. It's either nonsense or certain influencers that they want for particular reasons. And Nick Fuentes, of course, is to mislead the young men, probably people more so who lean on the red team, maybe can start to see through Donald Trump and his facade and the politics. And like I've said many times, if you can get past the political beliefs, the next trap is, okay, well, look over here. It's all the JQs. It's all of them. It's all Israel, which, of course, Israel is involved in the dark occult and the powers that be. They're involved, but it's not just them. And what they do is they turn it into a hate thing where they make you hate them. And then they mix it with, a lot of red pill stuff where they talk about dating and, how to be a man, this and that. And then they start to use these certain talking points that attract people, that attract specifically young men who probably lean more towards on the red team. So, and I said this many times, it's crazy how on Instagram, for example, I'll see like a statistic post pop up about dating, right, or something involving dating with men and women, and the comments of men they're using all these red pill talking points, and the comment will have thousands of likes, and it's just really crazy how it's become mainstream, and just 6 years ago it wasn't really known. A lot of guys, it seemed they didn't know these kind of red pill type talking points when it comes to dating and the outlook on women and all that. So as you can see, there's been a major shift that's gone on since Trump became president, of course, which is it went from really far left to really far right. And who knows, maybe the next election will be the same if we get there. We don't really know what's going to happen. But what I'm trying to say about Nick Fuentes is you can watch him. There's stuff, you can do whatever you want. Obviously, you have the free will to do that. But what I'm trying to say is with Nick Fuentes is there's stuff he says, of course, that's true, but ultimately he's misleading you, and he's being pushed out, which should make people be suspicious. If the president is talking about him and acknowledging him, I mean, you should be suspicious. So we should be able to watch people and have discernment. Okay, well, what this guy is saying is true. Maybe he has good logical solutions for certain things. Um, and maybe you just want to get a laugh and listen to him because of the stuff he says. He says some ridiculous things. So if you want to just get a laugh, listen to him. He's a very entertaining guy. I'll give him that. Um, but take what you can get from people. And it doesn't just go for him. This goes for any influencer. And I've said this before. You should be able to watch people, whoever, take what you can get from them. You don't have to agree with everything. But just because you disagree with certain things doesn't mean that, oh, well, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or this person's a Fed or CIA op. Obviously, some people are, and I believe Fuentes certainly is. But that doesn't mean all people who are influencers um, are trying to mislead you or this and that. Some people just don't have the full scope of things, and I certainly don't have the full scope of things. But the thing is, I know that I know more truth than most people out here. Real truth, real morality, and what we could potentially do to make the world better, right? And I'm just one guy. I obviously need help. I need support. I need to find the right community of people, which is very hard to do these days. Um, but that's really what I'm gonna start to wrap it up. That's really all I wanted to say about Nick Fuentes before I make this video too long. Um, again, he's a very funny guy. He's entertaining. There's stuff he says I agree with, and there's a lot he says that's silly. It's just like him rage baiting. It's him clearly this guy has been chosen to kind of shape and mold um, the minds of particularly, I would say, young men who gravitate towards him. And again, so we can only hope and pray that they can one day look past Nick Fuentes and kind of expand their thinking a little more, and they could take what they can get from him, but understand that he's been put in place to mislead them. He's the guy. So you can think what you can dislike what I say or disagree with me, but that's really my take on him. I'm not saying that he's a terrible person or there's something wrong with you if you like him, but all I'm saying is, okay, yeah, he's entertaining. He does say things that are true, but you gotta understand that Nick Fuentes is being pushed out on purpose. So that's it. That's all I'm gonna say before I make this video any longer. Let me know what you guys think though about Nick Fuentes here. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree with what he says, what you think about him, if you think he's a plant, if you think he's not. Please like the video, share it. Most importantly, subscribe to my channel here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.